I am back, and you are comfortably zoned with me, the Zigzag Man, Ralph Tycho, in Alameda, California, the North Bay area. And we're going to do an episode with one of my favorite all-time people who, in his words, is making a comedy comeback as if he needs a comeback.
You'd be surprised, man.
No, he's terrific. Mickey Joseph is my guest. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, Ralph, and I am making a comeback. And it's, I was gone for so many years that
you weren't gone. You were just in a 10-year gig. What was it? 10 years?
It was actually 9 years. 9 years. I played in the Rat Pack is Back, and I played Joey Bishop. I was a Jew for 9 years. Imagine the money I saved.
How was the recovery period after the operation? I just got to ask.
It's not. Well, the reason I left the show is because I was just getting tired of it, and I did that show 1,753 times.
Wow.
And it got to the point where my toupee was starting to go bald. So I decided to wrap it up, and the recovery period is good. Some of the people that would hire me here in the Bay Area all the time have picked up again.
No, I meant the operation for being a Jew. You had to be a Jew. You had to have that recovery period. You need no recovery period. You're back on stage. You performed last night. This is the 16th, August 16th of 2015. You were in Oakland last night, and you were doing your impressions. And that's what I remember about Mickey Joseph from the old days, Holy City Zoo. I always described you as the best middle in the Bay Area in those days.
Well, thank you, man. I worked with a lot of great people, and I had some good times, man.
Tell me
I worked with them all.
Tell me about the zoo times. Tell me about some of your memories of the zoo, the Holy City Zoo.
I don't have a lot of memories of the Holy City Zoo because I wasn't a San Francisco cat. I was living in Redwood City, and I had 2 kids. I wasn't a hangout comedian, I had always had to rush home to get back to the family, and that's pretty much the way my life went. What I do remember at the zoo is working with Patton Oswalt the very first week that he was here. That was kind of exciting. And working with cats like, Mike Meehan and Janine and Slayton, and saw Robin in there a couple of times. But no, I wasn't one of the guys that was really making the hang. You know what I'm saying?
Okay. But you appreciated the significance of the zoo, and you...
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But when I first broke in, I went directly to the Punchline, and that became my real home club. I think they gave me like 3 or 4 weeks a year for about 10 years. I started as an opener, and then after I did well in the comedy competition, they moved me up to feature, and that's where I was, and that's where I was when I left for Las Vegas in 2007.
What brought about that gig? How did that manifest itself?
Well, I saw it was 2005 actually when I first read about the show. It was in San Francisco at the Post Street Theater, and I was telling myself I've got to see this show. Sandy Hackett was playing Joey Bishop, and I said I got to see the show, but it was expensive. I didn't know Sandy well enough to call him and ask him for a ticket. And oddly enough, I get a call from Dan St. Paul, who had been contacted by Kelly McDonald in Las Vegas because Sandy needed a replacement. And so Sandy's wife was getting ready to have a baby. So I went up and I watched the show, and I said to myself, and my son was with me, I said, I really want to do this, So I talked to Sandy. I gave him a copy of my stand-up tape, and he said, come back next week and see it again, and we'll talk. And so I was very excited about it, and he goes, what about hair? And I said, well, I got this old rug that my pop used to wear as a gag, And
Right.
so I had that rug in a See's candy box in my closet. I took it up there with me to see the show again. And now there's another actor standing there. And I'm looking at this cat, and I'm thinking, God, this guy looks just like Joey Bishop. I'm fucked, fucked again, with the acting thing. But Sandy said, what about hair? He said, what about hair? I had popped that after the show, He said, what about hair? I popped the box open. I popped that sucker on top of my head, and he looked at the other actor, and he said, we're going with Mickey.
Oh.
That's how I got the gig. So I was immediately a full-time actor in San Francisco theater scene, which was very cool. I mean, it's a big difference on driving up to the city from here, thinking I'm going to do stand-up in Santa Rosa, and now I'm saying to myself, shit, you're an actor, and you're going to the Post Street Theater.
Nice.
And I ran for about 4 months at the Post Street Theater, and it closed for maybe a month, and then we reopened at the Marines Memorial Theater for another 3 or 4 months.
That
so
is
it was
a nice building, and that's
yeah.
Yeah.
And then from there, they started booking me all over the country. I went with these cats all over the place, man. I did 110 cities, and then decided to move to Las Vegas. And after being in Las Vegas for about a year, I got hired full-time, and I was in the show every night.
Good.
Hey, Rio.
We talked
first
off
at
the
the
air
Plaza
a
and
little
then
bit.
Rio. What's that?
Your family is so important to you. How did they adjust to the moves? How did they adjust to?
Well,
these are growing kids at the time. They're young kids at the time. Now you're a granddad, by the way.
Yes, I have 3 grandchildren all of a sudden. So life is great, man. And I come from a big family, so I had a lot of help from my sister and my mom and my cousins and everybody else. We're a large Croatian Italian group of people, and it was not an easy adjustment for my kids. They were grown to the point when I left for Vegas to where they could pretty much take care of themselves. My son came down and lived with me for a couple of years in Vegas, and my daughter has always been, very enterprising. She's always had good jobs, and so it was tougher on me than it was on them because I was, the first year I was there, I was very lonely, but it worked out. I got some good friends there, and the difference between doing stand-up on the road and doing the Rat Pack on the road is when you do stand-up, you're getting on the plane by yourself and you're sitting at the airport by yourself. But when you're with these other guys, you're with 9 or 10 people, all moving together, which is, much more fun.
Right. You develop lifetime friendships with these guys, I'm sure.
Yeah, they're very close. When you see a guy in his underpants every night, you're gonna start to really love him.
Heart, Mickey. Be still my heart. I always wanted to get into the business, but that's a little ridiculous.
And also, the guy that played Sammy, Kyle Diamond, a brilliant. There was 2 guys. There was Kenny Jones and Kyle Diamond, and I love Kenny and I love Kyle. But Kyle stepped up. He had a little recording studio in his home, and we did a hip-hop video called Van Gundy's The Man with the Big Nuts. It's on YouTube. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't.
It's about my resemblance, a stunning resemblance to Jeff Van Gundy. Do you know who he is, the basketball commentator?
Yes, I do. And
it's a really fun video. We shot half of it out in the middle of the desert. And then the other half we shot on the Strip, and I'm really quite proud of it, and I hope your listeners get a chance to view it on YouTube. Van Gundy, The Man with the Big Nuts.
I want to tell you my Joey Bishop story.
Okay.
I'm 20 years old. I'm stationed at Travis Air Force Base in California, and in the Air Force, involuntarily joined, had to beat the draft, and I was a nighttime person. I'd hang at night for some reason at the commissary at the terminal. They called it the terminal, where the airport at the base. And I'm walking around the terminal one night and just hanging, and I run into, of all people, Joey Bishop. He's going
Great.
he is going on a UFO tour. So
wow.
I said, and he's going to Thailand, I remember, and he's walking around the terminal too. And we'd walk into each other. How you doing, Joe? Don't talk to me. I'm very nervous. He said, I don't like to fly, and I'm going out of the country. It's the first time out of the country. And I said, son of a gun. And he just looks at me, just like he wasn't all that amused. But I remember he was a cool guy. He had a show on Saturday night at 11:30, competing with Carson for a long time. And
that's true.
And
not only that, he had hosted for Johnny. I don't know if it was before that or after that, but according to history, he hosted the Tonight Show for Johnny Carson more than anybody else did. I think it was 165 times or something like that.
Yeah, I think Joan Rivers might have broken that record, or she's right up there as well.
Yeah. I'm not sure. And Cosby did it a lot, and they all did it. But
what's Regis Philbin was his Bobo. At night, and he went on to be Regis Philbin and Kathy Lee Crosby.
Yeah, he talked about things that were taboo as well. Joey did a very good job with that show. He was ahead of his time as far as
his kid got into show business, and his kid did a comic act, if I'm not mistaken, with Jerry Lewis's kid or some other
I know
child.
His name is Larry Bishop.
Larry Bishop, and they did a bit, and this is years before I got into comedy. Before he was, let's watch a death. That was it. And that was like I remember they come out like we're going to execute this guy. It's in California. Make it on TV, and they.
I would like to listen to that.
Yeah, if you could find that, it's out there. Larry Bishop, and it might have been Dean Martin's kid, one of Dean Martin's kids. It was a celebrity, but that sounds because it wasn't Dean Martin's kid, but it was a celebrity, and it was let's watch a death. Very clever.
That's funny.
Anyway, tell me where you're going to be doing comedy next, Mick.
Let me see. Tuesday night, I'm at the Throckmorton Theater in Mill Valley, which is an excellent gig, and that's where Robin hung out, and in Mill Valley.
In Mill Valley,
and Robin used to come in there and hang out with the comedians and get on stage at the end of the show, and he was so good to all of us there. It's very sad that it's a year ago now that he passed. Of course, everybody knows.
Hey, and last week we lost Jimmy Gunn of local.
I love Jimmy, and I'll tell you why.
Terrific guy.
Back in the day, Jimmy, we were all thinking, we got to get on the Tonight Show, we got to get Letterman, we got to work clean, and Jimmy was all about the moment, man. He really was. He didn't care about television or anything else. He just cared about getting laughs right now, and he was a great risk taker, and we all sat back and watched him, and I really admired that guy, I really did.
Right. I feel much the same about Benjamin Stewart, who died much too early. A risk taker who ahead of his time, and back in the day. We've lost some very talented, wonderful people. Yeah, Ben was absolutely terrific. He's been an inspiration to me every day of my life. I mean, think about what this guy overcame and had a smile on his face and lived as he did. More living in 26 years. Everybody loved Ben, and I got to tell you, Mick, everybody loves Mick. It's a very competitive business. It really is. People go, well, everybody's camaraderie. We're all in comedy. That's a bunch of bullshit. Everybody wants to get ahead. Everybody wants to stay up. And everybody is looking for a reason to not like somebody because they were successful. It's a lot of jealousy, a lot of petty shit. Nobody knows them more than me. Nobody. I mean, they're natural. They're natural feelings, and sometimes you go with them. You know,
Absolutely.
you have to. And if you don't get it out there, you die of consumption. You know,
right.
And it's very, very real. And I'll tell you something, Mick. There's nothing bad can be said about you. You did it right.
Thank you, man.
I'm proud to have known you. I want you to tell. We reminisced about this off the air, but you were a single dad. I was a stay-at-home dad, and I loved your joke from back then. Tell your joke, Meg.
Yeah, we were driving down the road. We were driving through our neighborhood. My son is about 3 years old. He's in the back seat of the car, and all of a sudden he blurts out, "That's my fucking park." And I said, "Wait, what? What did you say?" He said, "That's my fucking park." I said, "No, that's not your fucking park. That park belongs to everybody. That park belongs to fucking everybody." I'm sorry, I blew it.
Well, that's all right. It's your joke. You work. You got to touch it up, Mick. You got to punch word. Punch word.
I want to say this about Robin. The last time I saw Robin Williams in that green room at the Throckmorton, where we're performing on Tuesday, I sat in there with Robin and Mort Saul and Dick Gregory.
Oh wow!
And I was sitting right in front of those. Yeah, he was
early on. He was early on, and back in the day when people were working at the Cotton Club, for Christ's sake, they couldn't get a license.
Right.
That kind of thing. He was and he did some movies, some very, very cult movies that
that's true.
Are out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what a thrill for you. And Mort Saul, you get on stage, you're dry like he was, and that had to be a thrill. What's more?
Yeah, absolutely. Not only that, but I was just feeding Robin ideas, and he was just running with every fucking idea that I threw at him, and those guys were cracking up, you know. Dick Gregory was laughing his ass off on the couch in the green room, you know. And
nice.
It's just a great memory that will forever be with me to be part of that, you know. And there was about 7 or 8 comics milling about that room, but shit, man, I pulled up that chair and I got right in with those cats thinking, God, what an opportunity, you know, to breathe in some comedy talent here, you know.
And I might say what an opportunity for them. So thanks, Mick. I'm honored to have you. I'm going to end the episode in the way I generally end episodes. I'm going to implore you and all my audience to keep your humor dry and your dreams wet. Keep your kids and your grandkids out of military recruiting stations at all cost. And keep your kids off the laps of clerics that wear dresses for the most part.
And drink wine at 6 o'clock in the morning.
Right. You know, it's just not a good thing. If you're looking for daycare, you know, look in the yellow pages, for crying out loud. You could do a lot better. I'm just telling you. Because I love you. I love everybody. So I remind on a daily basis. So thanks, Mick. We'll catch you on the flip-flop. And adios, muchachos and muchachas.
Okay, Ralph, and thank you so much for inviting me.